know where you're from and your ethnicity.
Okay, so my ethnicity, I am 100% Han Chinese, 7 generations of Lin, but I am, my nationality is Taiwanese. I was born in Taipei and immigrated to Canada when I was 7. So yeah, so I guess my ethnicity is Chinese.
That's amazing. And did you grow up in a traditional home? Were your parents really traditional?
Yes, in a manner of speaking, they are traditional in the sense that they're both, westernized in the sense that they speak English and they're, educated. But their expectations of me as a woman and as a Taiwanese Chinese woman are very traditional in terms of, attaining a level of success in my life and sort of the career paths that are sort of valorized. Yes, they're traditional. So when I did go off way left field and said, decided I wanted to pursue the arts, there was definitely tension and, I guess disappointment on that side. But, that took, the last, in my 20s to realize that this was actually the right choice for me personally.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So did they force you to speak Chinese?
No, not at all actually. So my mother tongue is Mandarin. That was the first language I learned how to speak. Actually, I actually didn't mention this earlier, but my grandfather was entirely educated in Japan because of the occupation.
Oh, wow.
So I was actually I'm not super close with either of my parents, but I was very close to my grandfather. And at a certain point, I think when I was like very young, I actually was speaking Mandarin and Japanese. And I lost the Japanese entirely when I got older, but yeah, so no, but they didn't have the sense like, oh, you have to speak Mandarin at home. I was lucky enough that I wanted to speak Mandarin at home because I could speak English anywhere else when I was 7. You're in second grade, and you speak
bilingual.
English.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. A lot of people can't do that when they're adults. So tell me about this exciting project that you're doing.
So yes, and I'm glad to be in company that is sort of like-minded and passionate about similar issues. But so I am interested in the sort of the relative invisibility of Asian American issues within the American pop cultural landscape. I think as a group, the Asian American diaspora has done very well in this country and integrated themselves seamlessly into this country in a way that's sort of relegated the very, very real issues that we face as a group. Cultural, sort of sociological issues that we face as a group. So the sort of 2 themes, I suppose, that I'm interested in are sort of idealizations of beauty within Asian American culture and sexual politics between Asian American males and Asian American females. I believe Asian American females, by and large, are hyper-sexualized in the media, whereas Asian American males are, by and large, emasculated, passive, and portrayed as nerdy, unexpressive people. And I feel like this is a very real issue considering the new generation of children that are growing up in our country that have no real role models to look up to.
Right.
But my current project, I'm trying to create, my background is in photography. I'm trying to create a photographic spectrum of every conceivable possibility of the Asian American face, because I believe that it does go beyond just, for instance, me, 100% Han Chinese, because I have a lot of friends who consider themselves Asian even though they're only half or a quarter or whatever. So I'm doing black and white portraits of people that I have met, all walks of life in New York, people who are half Japanese, half Spanish, Koreans, Chinese, Japanese, half Haitian, half Chinese, half Jewish, half Chinese, just like every iteration of what is considered an Asian face in this country. So I feel like this is a visually striking thing to look at. It's delicious, like there's something very exotic about that. The other day I shot a girl who is Mongolian, who's 100% ethnically Mongolian, but a Russian, because she was born and raised in Russia.
Very, very amazing.
The most amazing. I met her and I was like, can I keep you? Because you're like the coolest person I've ever met. But yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now.
And through that, have you found that most of the mixed Asians, that it's the Ori, that's the Asian mom, and the different ethnicity father.
Yes, that seems to be a theme. It's
Yes.
actually very rare to have a father who is the Asian side.
Yes.
I have one I know a lot of friends who are biracial, which is, I think, the best. It's so symptomatic of this beautiful change that's happening right now, that people are marrying other races. I think that's like the best. One of my dear friends, this guy named Daniel, he's half Jewish, half Chinese. He's also a model, he's beautiful, and a translator. He's like awesome. But his father is Chinese, but that is very rare. And his father was like sort of an exception because he's like kind of a hippie and like kind of cool. But you don't really see that. It tends to be sort of like, you know, the sense of sexual imperialism that you have the white man or whatever other race man marrying an Asian wife.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. I found that too. So what inspired you to do this?
I think it's sort of, this project charts very much my own sort of personal history in a lot of ways. I spent the majority of my life, because I was an immigrant and I integrated myself into North American culture very well. I very much repressed the side of me that was Chinese. It took me, it basically took me moving to China after college when I was 21, 22, going to Beijing and realizing and seeing that the vastness and the incredible power of my history. You know, I'm standing in Tiananmen Square and seeing thousands of people who have my hair and who have my feature and my face, and feeling that sort of coursing through my veins. It was one of the most powerful feelings ever. Like I said earlier, you know, having been educated in the Western canon, right? Like, you know, I studied literature and history in university, and not knowing really that much about East Asia. The only thing I did know was that I am Asian and that I can speak the language. That's all. It was this idea of passing as white. I wanted to be white.
Wow.
And you know, after being in China for 4 years, I fell head over heels in love with this country. I'm so proud, and not like in a sort of like a in a pride that is just so it's profound. It was a profound change. So doing this project has been a humbling experience. Meeting people who have shared this condition of knowing what it's like to be a minority in this country, in this city. I mean, it's just a very beautiful experience to hear people's stories.
That's wonderful that you're doing this to help enlighten everybody about the different issues. So can you tell me about any difficulties that you had growing up Asian in North America, pretty much in majority white communities?
Difficulties. I guess, like, you know, I've run into like random instances of racism, but I mean, those weren't enough to sort of like shatter my sense of self. I guess, like, you know, the main difficulty is that I feel like within, you know, Asian culture in North America, period, there isn't one type, right? You know, you could say that there's ABCs, people who are born here and they're immigrants, right? And then, but it's very subtle, the differences. Like, I'm an immigrant who I'm an immigrant to this part of the world who managed to pick up the language and the culture very well. So I can roll with people like Caucasians. But there are those who come to this country who never actually integrate themselves, and they find it very hard to fit in. I guess my problem, my issues that I face is not really knowing where I do belong. And one of the things about growing up is that I did find people who were like me, who were immigrants, but who could sort of go from either side. Like, when I do speak to a person who can't really speak English, who is Chinese, and I speak in Mandarin, they feel comfortable with me.
Right.
But at the same time, like, you know, my personal history, you know, most of my boyfriends I have never dated an Asian man.
Wow.
And I don't know why, and it's not, you know, maybe it's, we don't have to go into that, but it's just like, I don't know, you know, why that hasn't happened for me. I guess haven't been, you know, had the opportunity, but, yeah. So I guess that's it. It's just not knowing exactly where to neatly categorize myself.
Yeah, that's a lot of Asians actually feel the same way as you. So what do you hope to gain? What is your main goal through this project that you're doing?
My main goal is to bring to light, to illuminate this incredible group of people that I feel have done so many incredible things in this country. I feel like there isn't enough, it's not just enough that we have an NBA player, who is a Harvard grad and who's,
Right.
plays for the Knicks. That's not enough. That's in a way, it's sensationalism, and it's because he's an athlete. Beyond just being a professional basketball player, there are Asian Americans and Asian North Americans doing everything, every type of industry, very well, and doing doing not even the very well, but doing the best. And I feel like there's, it's sort of become sort of unavoidable that these issues that we face, issues of identity, of self-deprecation, all this stuff that can't be ignored anymore. So what I would love to do, I want to have people see the incredible diversity of Asians in this country, and just see, look at what you are living amongst, really, and sort of elevating sort of the things that us as a group, that it's not, we can't just be the butt of jokes all the time in movies.
Right.
We don't all own buffets and delis,
Right.
and we're not, we don't work in nail salons, all of us. There
Exactly.
are those who do, and it's, that's what they do, but there are people who, every profession imaginable, there are Asians dominating it.
Yes.
And I just feel like there's something very, it's bizarre that this is not highlighted in the media.
Yeah.
And whatever I can bring to the table, I don't think that it's possible for me to like let everyone know this, but at least through my photography, like I would love for people to see at least just like the sheer beauty of diversity within Asians in this country. I think there's something very, very special and incredibly humbling about seeing that.
I think that's an absolute amazing what you're doing.
Thank you, that's very nice.
Now, we all know that in the mainstream, there's, Hispanics, Latinos, African Americans, and of course Caucasians. They've all made it to the, basically quote unquote A-list.
Sure.
And we haven't seen that any Asians have. I mean, you can't name 5 Asians that everybody would know as a household name like you can with Latinos or African Americans, as far as like actors, pop stars, and that type of genre goes. So what do you think has held back the Asians in succeeding in the entertainment industry?
That is an incredibly interesting question that I've thought about many times, and it really does bother me, because it's an incredible it's not even a misconception. It's just erroneous to say that Asian people aren't expressive people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're incredibly self-expressed. I think there's. So I wish I knew why, but I think there could be several reasons. There's socioeconomic things. There's the traditional values that Asians are ascribed to, right? Because as our parents want us to do certain things that we are deemed successful and great things. They are being a doctor, being a lawyer. Those are all amazing things, that one could do. I mean, you don't really have parents encouraging you to be a performance artist unless you're a classical pianist. In that field, Asians dominate. When you look at some of the most talented, graduates from Juilliard or Curtis, they're all Asian.
But it's stereotypical, as well.
Right, which is completely stereotypical. But I mean, acting is just something, or singing. I just think, in a weird way, I feel like Asians aren't traditionally, like, I guess, they're not risk takers, because it's a risk to enter these industries, because you don't know what the outcome is. You know what the outcome is if you spend 10 years in medical school, because you will come out and get a ridiculously well-paying job because you earned it. There's something very, that relies on chance, that, and I don't think Asians are good with that, like traditional Asians, like those values. And I think it's also a question of timing. I feel like there aren't that many roles that, the America isn't comfortable yet with seeing the girl next door or the hot girl in a movie purely just being an Asian woman, and not because she's Asian, just so that she could be Asian. That hasn't really happened, really. Or you know, someone playing a role in a movie that, you know, let's say an Asian guy in a movie that has nothing to do with about him being Asian, just
Or martial artist.
right, exactly.
Or Chinese delivery boy.
Right, or being like a stuntsman or something like that. These roles aren't carved out yet, but I really do believe that this is changing because there are I think many more Asian actors and actresses now and singers like in this landscape. But I don't know the reason. I don't know if there is a specific reason, but it does sadden me and it troubles me to think about that there aren't these role models. Because you know what, when you're young and you grow up, these are naturally the industries we look up to as role models.
Yes.
Right? We want pop idols. Like who did I look up to? I liked, you know, I love Radiohead. I loved like Tom Hanks or whatever, you know, some actor. I love Brad Pitt. None of these people are Asian.
Right.
Because I mean, it's like when you want to look up to stuff like male idols, but
you want to feel a connection.
Absolutely, and it's this sense of, and celebrity is a huge thing in this country, and I just feel like, I don't know why, and we're talking specifically about America too, because in Asia, there's
completely different.
Completely, there are incredible role models to look up to, the actors and singers. There's a thriving community, but I just feel like, you know, what you guys are doing clearly is something that really needs to be done because there needs to be light shed on this issue because it's a very real issue. People can't say that the entertainment industry doesn't determine and doesn't inform what people are going to think.
Oh, it absolutely
we go to see the movies, we watch television because we are incredibly influenced by what we see. Visual culture is everything in this country.
Yes.
And if there aren't Asians, you know, the only thing that people can think, oh yeah, you own restaurants. It's like the stereotypes keep perpetuating themselves because there isn't anything else. So I think what, you know, you guys are doing is just so important, you know, and just so, not even just for Asians, but for people, just to be more educated on this matter.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for letting me interview you, and good luck so much with your project. Any idea on when you're going to wrap that up?
I think this is something I'm going to pursue for the next, like, 6 months to a year, because I feel like this is something that this is, like, my life. Like, I want to, it makes me, the sense of purpose it gives me is just so profound. But I'm saying, like, 12 months. That's what I'm going to give myself.
And where can we see your work?
Well, right now everything's online on my website, but I'm hoping, you know, I'm gonna start pitching, you know, start writing grants and stuff within the next, after I wrap up. So I want to include the spectrum, this photographic spectrum as a part of my grants because I feel like that's what people are drawn to is visual, like it's a very visual culture. And to just set myself apart from other applicants, right? So, you know, once I get them ready, everything will start rolling. But say a year. You know.
That's great. All right. Yeah, everything always revolves around funds.
Yeah,
funding.
It does.
Well, thank you so much.
Of course.
You're wonderful, and I'm so impressed with what you're trying to do. And it's really gonna help all of us, you know, in the community and enlighten the general public as well. So it's amazing. Thank you so much. So keep up the good work.